Someone recently requested a neckline video, how to turn a neckline into a sweetheart neckline. So today I'm going to show you how to do that. And by the way, I love getting requests for videos. So if you have a request for a video, leave it down below in the comments. And the odds are I'm going to make it for you. So you're going to need a dress or top that you want to change the neckline on. You're going to need a little bit of bias tape, and you're going to need some sort of marking tool. So I'm going to draw my sweetheart neckline on the front of the dress so I can get a vibe for how deep it's going to be, how big my curve is going to be on the front of it, etc. You could also take a pattern that you have that has a sweetheart neckline and place it on top of the existing garment and use that as a template. So first, what we want to decide is how far down we want our sweetheart to be. So I'm going to start my sweetheart right above this heart here. I think that will be cute. And now what I need to decide is how big of a shape we want coming up. And then I'm going to keep some of my shoulder here because I have a sleeve on here. So I want this to come down and then over. So I can see maybe I want to blend that down a little bit lower. And that looks pretty good. But we want to do it to the other side as well, over and down. And obviously I didn't draw these both symmetrically, so we're going to take this off the dress form and we'll use our rulers and true this up so it's nice and smooth. But because we are cutting into the shoulder, that means we also need to lower the back. So I'm just going to lower the back by about 3/4 of an inch all the way around, just blending back into that shoulder over there. If you don't want to change the back of your neckline, you can also take this line and just blend it directly into the tip of the shoulder by your neck. So that way we're just blending to this point, not in the shoulder, because if we're coming out here in the shoulder, we are making our neckline open, more open here. But if we want to keep that full shoulder, we're just going to blend into the tip of the shoulder by the neck. So then we'll come straight down and then over. There's no particular reason I'm lowering the back a little bit in this one. I just think it's going to work out better in this case with this dress. That's the fun part about changing up your clothes. You get to make them however you want. Now that we have this drawn out, let's get it on the table and true it up. So I really like how the curve looks over here on this side, so I'm going to go with this one. Now we just need to smooth out one curve because we are going to fold this in half, so that way we get our design symmetrical on both sides. So I have my curve here, and this here is a straight line, and I'm going to straighten out my line right up to the shoulder here. So now I know exactly where I need to cut this curve, the straight line, and then we're going to chop off that back neck. So now what we're going to do is fold our dress in half. So now I have the dress folded in half and I have it pinned down so it's not going to move. So that way when I make this one cut, it's going to be symmetrical for the front of the bodice of this dress. Now we can just cut away right on that blue line that I created. You really want to make sure that it's perfectly lined up everywhere, and a great way to do this is pin your seams together, side seam, waist, and armhole here. So that way it's nice and symmetrical and it's going to turn out even for you. Now we are going to follow that blue line and we are just going to cut into our outfit here. So now I'm at the shoulder and I'm going to flatten out the back here. There we go. Now we want to take out all of our pins and double check what we just did. So now we have our new neckline cut out here, and what we're going to do is apply a bias facing to it. So I have some bias tape here, and we are going to start at the shoulder. We're going to open up our fold, and we are going to sew 1/4 inch away from the edge, stitching this down. And if you have any points or curves, you are just going to follow these all the way around, whatever your neckline shape is. But I'm going to follow my sweetheart with the box here. We're also going to go around the back neck. I highly suggest starting at the shoulder so that way your seam of the binding can be at the seam of the shoulder. And when we do start, we want to start with this folded in about 1/4 of an inch. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. If you'd like to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out the SewingAnastasiaSewingAcademy.com for online classes, pattern of the month, and our virtual sewing circle. Now let's get back to changing that neckline into a sweetheart So I'm starting at the shoulder and I have that top edge of the binding folded down about 1/4 inch. So I'm working with a knit today with my bias binding. So I want to make sure that I'm not stretching out my knit while I'm sewing this. And if you have a woven fabric, you don't need to worry about that. So I'm just going to follow the crease in the binding all the way around my neckline here. We're going to add a few back stitches. We're just going to work our way all the way around. Now the curves and the points are going to be a little bit tricky. I would also engage your needle down button. That's going to help you when you need to readjust. The needle will be in your fabric. So when I get to the corner up here, I'm going to leave my needle in. I'm going to lift up my foot and then I'm going to clip into that point. So we are going to clip directly to that stitch there, and that's going to help open up this binding so we can move it around the curve. And now we're able to reposition it very carefully and just line that up again and keep following the curve of the bodice. And just keep following it a little bit at a time. And the nice thing about bias binding is that it will move really nice around curves. And we're going to get to the bottom point of the sweetheart and we're going to clip one more time. So foot up and let's clip right to the needle there. And then we can straighten this out. And now we're going to work our way right around our other sweetheart curve. Now we're at the corner. So one more time, we are going to just clip that binding there. And now it's going to allow us to turn it easier and come right back up the neck and then around the back. Now we're getting back to our shoulder seam where we have that folded piece of bias. We're going to overlap our current piece of bias by about 1/2 inch. Back stitch. And cut. Now that we have the binding sewn on, we need to iron it about 1/4 inch to the inside, and then we're going to take the entire piece of binding and iron it to the inside of the neckline here. And it should be about 1/4 inch wide. You want to use a fairly narrow binding for this. So if yours is too wide right now, just cut it down and make it narrower. And ironing it like this is just going to make it so much easier to sew. And now we're all done ironing. Now we have the bias binding all ironed and I pinned it to the inside to create that bias facing. Let's check it out. So you can see the entire piece of bias tape is folded to the inside of the garment. So on the outside, there's none to be seen. And when we sew this, we're gonna sew right on the very edge of the fold, as close as you can get to it. And this is pinned to help keep it down while I'm sewing. So now I have my positioning set up to do a nice edge stitch. I'm going to add a few back stitches and forward. When you get to your pins, don't forget to remove them. And also don't forget, you don't want to stretch your fabric if it is a knit. You get back to where you started, back stitch, and cut. We are all finished. Let's take a look at what we just created. You see we still have our front curve, our sweetheart neckline there, and then we have our new finished edge with the bias facing. Our sweetheart neckline is looking so sweet. We have our point at the center and we have our curves here creating our sweetheart. Now you can change up the curves of your sweetheart to be really deep or high or whatever you like. And you can use this technique to create any style of neckline that you would like. You're basically just finishing the edges with a bias facing on the inside. Thanks so much for watching Sew Anastasia today. If you enjoyed this video on how to create the sweetheart neckline, make sure you like and subscribe to Sew Anastasia and hit the notification bell up in the corner. If you have any questions about this process or have any videos that you'd like to see, leave it down below in the comments. And thanks so much for suggesting this video. And don't forget to follow me on all the social, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Oh wait, it's not Twitter anymore, it's X. Anyways, let's stay connected and creative together. And if you're in Chicago, come on into my design studio and take some sewing classes with me. And if you're not in Chicago, well, we now have the Anastasia for online classes, pattern of the month, and the virtual sewing circle. Links for all of that will be down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.